And joining us now is Dr. Ann Hendershot, professor of sociology at Franciscan University in Steubenville. She's analyzing some of the polling that's been out recently. A new Rasmussen poll released the other day showed that Americans are sending more negative signals than positive ones over the decision by many professional sports organizations like NBA, MLB, NFL to promote the Black Lives Matter movement, not because people don't think that's important, but when you go to their website, it's a little shocking. And so people are starting to do that, and they're like, okay, dissolution of the family, no fathers? What does that have to do with Black Lives Matter? A socialist economy? What does that have to do with Black Lives Matter? Nothing has to do with it. So people are starting to now question this, and joining us now is Ann Hendershot. Ann, great to have you with us.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we all support equality for everyone, and we don't want anyone to be picked on in that way. But the Black Lives Matter movement is kind of turning people off at the corporate level, certainly not at the local level. But this sports thing, that's a big deal. And so I'm a sociologist, so I look at data closely. And Rasmussen is a really good poll. And they polled 1,000 Americans, national representative sample, and they found that about a third of them said that they're less likely to watch sporting events that promote the Black Lives Matter versus only about 20% who said they're more likely to do so. And then when you further break it down, the data are even worse. It's not just, some groups, like the groups that advertisers like most, 43% of men under 40 years old indicate that they're less likely to watch sporting events that promote the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, who knows? And your listeners may be thinking, yeah, they may say that, but they're still going to watch. And we won't know for sure until we get the data from the ratings.
Well, we know right now, and we know, Dr. Hendershot, right now without data, that MLB viewing on the MLB app, which I use, I'm a big Astros fan, that it is down dramatically from 2019. So now NBA just started a couple days ago. So is hockey. Hockey's not really involved in this, but NBA just started of the data on that. But the first 2 weeks of Major League Baseball viewing on television way down. Now there could be a lot of reasons for that. People don't like some of the rules. It's only a 60-game season, so you can't really extrapolate all of it. But it's down dramatically.
It is, and nobody really wants to say that. In fact, I go to a Sports Media Watch site, and their headline was, after big start Thursday, MLB back to earth over weekend. Now, that's their way of saying everything's down, but it's back to earth. I guess it was so far, it really wasn't. The big start wasn't such a big start, and it's down, but they just said back to earth. Nobody really wants to say that. NBA, the headline was, returns with solid numbers on TNT. NBA isn't as bad, but in part that could be explained. NBA fans are already used to political messages. Major League Baseball, we're not used to that. If you're a baseball fan, you're not used to this. And some of the data indicate that certain groups are more likely. Now, a lot of people would say, well, certainly black fans will be more likely to tune in. And yes, 38% of blacks are more likely to watch, but an astounding 28% of blacks indicate that they're less likely to do so. So maybe they're sick of this whole thing too. A lot of people are just tired of the politics. They turn on sports, like my husband does, to watch sports. My husband was a baseball player. He played for the Dodgers. So he's a big baseball fan, and he's going to keep watching. I can tell you he's not in that demographic that's going to stop watching. But he's not happy. He just thinks baseball should be pure. And, we've been married for 46 years. I know him very well, and I know that he's not going to stop watching. In fact, he made fun of this article that I wrote. He said, people aren't going to stop watching. But they say they're going to stop, and the ratings are down, and he's not in that under 40 demographic. We've been married 46 years. But 43% of those men under 40 are saying they're they're mad, they're unhappy, they're sad. I don't know if they're mad as much as they're sad. They've been so excited about the baseball season starting, and then to start this way, is just really a letdown.
Well, Dr. Ann Hendershot with us, sociology professor at Franciscan University in Steubenville. I agree with your assessment. Look, I'm a huge baseball fan. I played it in college. My son plays it, and I'm a big Astros fan. So, I have the MLB app. I have the whatever it is on DirecTV where you buy the games. I forget what it's called, MLB. So I pay for all that. But so I haven't, and I'm 62, so I'm not in that demographic either. So I've not stopped watching, but I did a couple narratives on this because it has infuriated me. I watch baseball. I do politics all day.
Yeah.
You know why I turn on the Astro game? I want to see Altuve hitting a slider. I want to see what rookie relief pitcher we have coming in that just got up from double A. I want to see George Springer hit a fastball. I don't want to go back to politics. I've done that all day.
No,
and so when I
know.
turn it on and I see images on the mound and people kneeling and T-shirts, it's like, just play the damn game. It has really pissed me off.
You sound like my husband. You sound like
I just don't want it. And I'm a Trump supporter.
I know.
I didn't think the president should have gone to the World Series with the Nationals. I don't think he should have done that. I was opposed to that because then they're booing him, and I don't want that. I want to watch the game. And when he went there, he knew that was going to happen. He shouldn't have went. Just stay back and work, and then put the game on TV. That's the problem, and that's why he hasn't thrown out a first pitch. I agree with him on that. Don't inject politics into. I don't care what side it is. It aggravates me, Dr. Hendershot, to no end.
Well, I know you're not alone. You're a third of the country here where they're going to watch less. Although I think people are even less likely to say on the phone that they don't support it. So I would almost double those statistics, but that's not sounding, I'm not putting on my sociologist hat because we have no idea. But I think when somebody asks you these questions, you're a little hesitant to answer honestly, just like Trump voters are less likely to answer honestly to these polls. Right now, we're really being forced to take a side, and we don't want to have to take sides in this. We just want to watch sports.
Yeah, exactly.
Women are more likely to watch. It's the Black Lives, but women don't watch as much sports as men. The data are interesting.
Well, look, comment on this. I mean, 4 years ago, Colin Kaepernick kneeled down. There's a handful of people kneeling down, and he was criticized for that. And I was one of the people leading the bandwagon. I just don't believe that you should. First of all, I don't kneel for any man except God, so I'm not going to kneel, period.
No, neither
I
do
kneel at my Catholic church to the Lord and the Savior. That's it. End of story. I'm not going to kneel for any man or any movement or anything else. I'm going to kneel only for God. So we criticize him for that. Now, there's only two people out of the entire league who do not kneel, and they're criticized by the media mob. This has changed in a 4-year period, a 5-year period. Think about that.
I know. Yeah, the Kaepernick thing, I mean, everyone was so concerned about that, including the NFL owners, that it was outlawed for a while. And now Roger Goodell is like, oh, we're so sorry about ever doing that. We don't know how we could have done such a thing. And we, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to you earlier. Well, he was listening to his sponsors and his fans who were furious. But now, a complete 180 here. So, yeah, we're really changed. And the New York Times had an article critical of people who stand. They criticized that poor soccer player. I felt sorry for her. She was the only one that stood at the soccer game, saying that she had military members in her family. She, respects the flag. I think they're going to have to do away with the anthem or something, or do away with this. Just stop the whole thing.
Well, I mean, apparently they're playing in the NFL. They're playing a second anthem. I didn't know we had two anthems.
Oh, I know.
I mean, the fact that you have to do away with the anthem, the fact that in various cities they're burning flags and Bibles, so now you're embarrassed to have a flag. I didn't have a flag at my home just because I didn't have one, no particular reason. We just went out and purchase the biggest American flag that we could possibly find and put it out there because I'm pissed. And I mean, either you're an American or you're not. Now, we can change from within, but not kneeling for the national anthem, burning flags. I mean, where are we going with this? And again, you want to burn a flag, you got the First Amendment, whatever, do whatever you want. You want to burn Bibles, whatever, okay? We have a First Amendment. But when I turn a baseball game on, I really don't want to deal with that. And that's, I think, where I'm coming from. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, you're not alone. Yeah, and this is going to continue until it's not, and then it'll stop. You know, it's like any trend. We will get through this, and I think things are already starting to change. People are looking at the protests as criminals, the protesters. Rasmussen just did a poll yesterday. I get their poll data, and I think your listeners, that's something you might want to talk about pretty soon. I mean, these are not protesters. These are criminals. Not the nice protesters that do it peacefully, but the ones that are destroying cities. And people, over 50% of the country believes they're criminals. So I think things will change, but in the meantime, there's a lot of pain going on. I mean, the Chicago police chief just committed suicide. There were 8 suicides of police officers in Chicago just in the past year. People think that you can do these things and there are no consequences. They can choose their behavior, but they can't choose their consequences, and the consequences are deadly.
Well, the situation in Chicago, Dr. Hendershot, is horrific. It's just absolutely horrific, and it goes beyond, whether I'm pissed off at a baseball game because an insignia is on the back of the mound. I mean, what is going on? The lawlessness that is going on in these riots, and the stupidity of some of these people, like in Seattle. I mean, they're getting rid of police totally, and they're using terminology like we're reimagining public safety. What the hell does that mean? I mean, you're being raped, and so what do? Don't rape me because we're going to be reimagining public safety, and you really need to talk to my counselor? Here's the phone?
That's nothing that happens. No, it is. The leaders they have in these cities are destroying their own cities. But, we've seen this horror show before.
When?
Well, the French Revolution, for one thing. That is one of the things they did. And the Russian Revolution. The first thing they did was get rid of the police. People need to read their stories of the Russian Revolution. That's the first thing they did, and put in their own secret-type police and their citizens' councils and people narking on each other. We've seen this before, and it ends badly, always, until people come to their senses. And people sometimes have to die. It's awful.
Well, it's a horrible situation we have right now, especially in some of these major cities. Chicago, New York, shootings are up. And, somebody said to me the other day, stop saying shootings, say number of people wounded, because that's really what it is. It's not like you're shooting into the sky or you're shooting into an empty lot. Yeah. You're shooting people. They're not dead. They're in the hospital, right?
Yes.
And?
That's right.
Sick. So we'll have to see what happens. Look, tell your husband I'm with him on it. I'm sick and tired of it. But I think it is going to have an impact. I think over time, this is going to have an impact on the number of people that tune into this stuff. And I think when the NFL comes back and we start seeing, dual anthems and people kneeling, I mean, people are just going to stop going. And, the thing is, I don't care about they look at their sponsors. I mean, you go to a baseball game. Do you know how much it costs now to go to a baseball game with your family? I mean, when my father took me, we grew up in New York. He'd take me to Shea Stadium or Yankee Stadium or something. I mean, it was $10, to get in, go on the subway. The last time I took my family to a professional baseball game, the 4 of us, I mean, it was like $250, but for one game. I mean, that's what it is now. You go to a football game, it's over that. It's $500. So, I mean, eventually people are going to stop. They're all going to wake up. We'll see. Yeah. And thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. It's good to meet you.
Dr. Ann Hendershot,